Empty pesticide containers, where do they go? Do you ever think about how many containers are emptied in one state in 1 year? For instance, in Washington state, it is estimated that 3 million containers are emptied each year. To put that into perspective, if you were to build a 15-foot wall, the height of the goalposts, around the edge of a football field, it still could not hold 3 million empty containers. It takes between 500 to 1,000 years for a plastic container to degrade in a landfill. But if you recycle these containers, you get railroad tie substitutes, field drain tiles, and parking curbs. Only clean containers can be recycled into a new product or disposed in an environmentally acceptable manner. In fact, rinsing is required by federal and state regulations. The most common agricultural pesticide container is a 2.5-gallon plastic jug, but the containers can range in sizes from a half pint to 55-gallon drums. Some are even larger, 100, 250, even 1,000 gallons. In addition, non-returnable bulk and mini-bulk containers that held fertilizer or pesticides will need to be rinsed before being recycled or disposed. It's recommended that users consider the ease of container handling and proper recycling or disposal when purchasing pesticides. This video shows how to properly rinse empty containers so they can be safely managed. Think safety first for both you and the environment as you prepare to mix and load your pesticides. Always read the pesticide label for the recommended personal protective equipment, or PPE, when handling the product. By wearing protective gear and clothing, you reduce your exposure to pesticides from spraying or splashing when mixing and loading into your application equipment. At a minimum, wear chemical-resistant apron, appropriate gloves, goggles, face shield, or protective safety glasses, not just sunglasses, long sleeves and long pants. Pull pant legs over shoes, rubber boots, to prevent chemical runoff into shoes. Pull sleeves over gloves to divert runoff. Rinsing your container as you load your sprayer or mixing tank saves both money and time and can prevent environmental contamination. By rinsing directly into a tank, all the product is used. Dollars saved. Dried residue takes more time to remove if not rinsed immediately. Time and dollars saved. Unrinsed containers are considered full under the law, and if not usable, classified as hazardous waste. Unprotected containers with dried residue can contaminate soil, surface, and groundwater. Saves site cleanup cost. Mix away from water sources, such as wells and surface water, to prevent contamination from accidental spills. Saves the environment. What is a clean container? There are two effective procedures for rinsing pesticide containers for recycling or disposal: pressure rinsing and triple rinsing. Remember, those extra minutes taken to rinse as you fill a tank is time well spent. Triple rinsing. Triple rinsing means rinsing the container 3 times with water while shaking or rolling it. It only requires a hose and a clean source of water. Triple rinsing tends to be more effective in removing residue, but does take longer, and is more commonly used at sites where fewer and smaller containers are used. Follow these steps to triple rinse containers. After pouring the product into the tank, fill container 1/5 to 1/4 full with water. Recap container. With the container opening facing left, shake container for up to 30 seconds. Drain rinsate into tank, being careful not to spill. Repeat second time, now holding container opening pointed toward the ground and shaking for up to 30 seconds. Drain to tank. Repeat third time, now holding in normal upright position, cap toward the top, and shaking up to 30 seconds. Drain to tank. Holding container over the tank, carefully rinse any residue off the outside of the container, particularly threads and neck, making sure there is no visible liquid remaining in container. Rinse the cap over the tank and discard separate from the container. Pressure rinsing. Pressure rinsing requires a special nozzle that punctures the container and sprays rinse water into the container. Pressure rinsing is faster and easier than triple rinsing, but requires a minimum of 40 psi water pressure, normal household pressure. Because pressure rinsing takes less time, it is commonly used where there are more containers that tend to pile up quickly. Follow these steps to pressure rinse containers. Always point container opening down into the tank to assure all rinsate drains into it. Put tip into the side of container closest to handle. Push tip all the way inside. Turn water on. Rotate nozzle to rinse all sides and inside handle. Rinse the cap over the tank and discard separate from the container. Holding container over the tank, carefully rinse any residue off the outside of the container, particularly threads and neck. Turn water off when rinsate is clear. Remove nozzle and replace tip guard if not rinsing any more containers. Don't forget to rinse drums and larger containers before recycling or disposal. As with smaller containers, federal and state laws require rinsing before they can be recycled or disposed. What happens if you don't rinse your containers? When containers aren't rinsed, they have the potential of becoming hazardous waste because of any leftover pesticide or its residue in or on the container. Unrinsed containers are hazardous waste and cannot be recycled or disposed into a landfill. Hazardous wastes have requirements for storage. They require paid contractors to package, transport, and accept at a hazardous waste facility. Did we mention unrinsed containers were very expensive? The time it takes to properly rinse empty containers costs much less than storage and disposal costs for a hazardous waste. Inspect your empty containers after rinsing. An important best management practice is to inspect the empty container when you finish rinsing it and before storage. Make sure you rinse off product residue on both the interior and exterior surfaces. Make sure all rinsate has been emptied out. Remove the instruction booklets and plastic sleeves. Make sure caps are off and disposed separately. Some products leave stains on the container walls, and this is acceptable to recyclers. No matter where you take the containers for disposal, they won't be accepted if they aren't clean. Unacceptable containers will be sent home with you to be re-rinsed or handled as a hazardous waste. Containers will be refused for recycling or disposal if they contain liquids or solid residues. Here is an example of an unacceptable container. Rinsing containers with dried product takes more time and effort. It is also very important that empty rinse containers are properly stored until time to recycle or dispose. Proper storage prevents rain or snow from collecting in empty containers. Store in roofed buildings, enclosed trailers, or huge plastic sacks. Where to take those clean, empty containers? When containers have been rinsed, they become a solid waste according to federal and state laws. The preferred choice for managing empty containers is recycling. Empty plastic pesticide containers cannot go to the general plastic and metal recycling programs commonly offered to the public. A national group named Ag Container Recycling Council, ACRC, contracts with specific recyclers across the nation to provide an outlet to growers and applicators to recycle their containers. This service is free to the growers and applicators. The contractors and their staff inspect containers to make sure they have been properly rinsed. These recyclers assure that the plastic is recycled with processors and manufacturers that make suitable products. The plastic is controlled so that it does not go into items such as food containers, children's toys, and playground items. The ACRC Internet site lists contractors nationwide. On the Internet at acrecycle.org. Contact the recycler to learn where and when to take your containers for recycling. If recycling is not offered where you live, disposal to a landfill may be the only other acceptable disposal method. Pesticide containers must be rinsed before they can be disposed to a landfill. Landfill operators usually inspect the empty containers to confirm they have been rinsed. Tipping fees are charged for disposal to a landfill, and a signed document regarding rinsing may be required. Contact your county's Public Works or Solid Waste Department to find out where to take empty containers. But if you can recycle, please do. Our landfills are filling rapidly, and empty containers take up a lot of empty space. By recycling, you're extending the life of your landfill and providing a raw material for a new product. In closing, remember, with rinsed recyclable containers, you save money by using every drop of product. You protect people and the environment. You extend the life of landfills. And you provide a raw material for new products.